Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lettermen Row. This is BuckIQ. I am Austin Ward. That's Reid Fragel. Unfortunately, there is not a game to preview or the game to preview this week. But Ohio State, the season marches on. They will be in the Big Ten championship game next week. They're hoping to get back some offensive linemen who missed the win over Michigan State last week. But without them, without three starters, without one of the top guys off the bench, the freshman Paris Johnson, Ohio State still dominated in the trenches, and I don't know, Reid, when I saw that availability report on Saturday, I certainly had a little bit of concern for the Buckeyes. Those were massive losses and a lot of guys who we didn't know a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, I think I woke up the same as you that Saturday, seeing those 23 names that were just crossed out for the day, and kind of had a little bit of a pit in my stomach. But it's Ohio State at the end of the day, and you got to remind yourself that in those moments, Ohio State's just built different, where you got guys that can step up. You got three guys in the offensive line making their debut start at Michigan State in East Lansing. It's not the best environment to go into typically when it's a full stadium. Obviously, it didn't happen this time around. But even that being said, I think these three guys did a phenomenal job stepping up to the plate and answering the task at hand against a good defense, honestly. So I'm looking forward to breaking down the film with these guys, and I'm not sure how much more we'll see them this year, but it was great to know that Ohio State is that deep at offensive line for the years to come.
Yeah, we don't often get a lot of opportunities like this where we're, especially even in this year, maybe we would have seen them play some garbage time or some mop-up time and blowouts in September and get a good feel, but not a full game. And again, Michigan State's offense probably didn't provide a lot of tests for Ohio State's defense, but they were still playing really good defense, and they'd had some notable performances already this year. They kind of did a good job slowing down Indiana. We know what they could do. So it's not like this is a meaningless film. You had to go win a Big Ten game on the road.
Right, and to put up 521 yards in itself, I mean, it's an impressive feat, let alone with the backups in there, guys making their first start. So I think it's something that wasn't really talked about enough after that big win at Michigan State. So I'm looking forward to kind of talking about it a little bit more today and focusing on some of these guys and their key plays.
No better place to do it than right here on BuckIQ, getting Reid to break down some of these young offensive linemen as the Buckeyes moving on now to the postseason. Let's roll the tape. All right, Reid. First and foremost, I think we'll just establish this, that it does help to have Justin Fields to be your quarterback. He bails out a lot of some of these plays, and Harry Miller didn't have that best game. We'll talk about that another time and the difficulty of going to center. But these guys, you talked about over 500 yards of offense and what they did in this game, that you saw some pretty big holes, and that running game had an impact. And that wasn't just because of Fields. Those guys had to do some work up front.
Yeah, anytime you have Fields back there, it's going to help your offensive line. Going to keep the defense on their heels a little bit more. But right here you see a good execution on the left side with DeJuan Jones sealing off the end. Matthew Jones getting a good chip, working up a combo block linebacker, sealing that off just enough, and you're getting a good push. I mean, that's a win over 3 or 4 yards of a rush there, so that's a winning play. But it's just plays like this that, over the course of a game are going to add up and wear on a defense to allow Justin Fields to open up and make some key plays and even some key blocks, as you'll see later. But it's just, this is stuff that, backups that coming in, making their first start and executing big rushes like that over the course of a game, they're going to win you ball games and put up 521 yards on a defense.
And this is the one, too. Like, we've seen this a lot, even with a full-strength, full-speed offensive line. Part of it is moving the pocket for Justin Fields. What's the key for these linemen want to play like this? And, where he's moving around, and I don't know exactly what your responsibility would be as an offensive lineman when you're setting up a play like this. Sure.
It's a sprint-out play. I mean, it's kind of a good play for an offensive lineman. You kind of feel like you can get out there and run a little bit. You're not just, having to worry about kicking back and staying in the pocket, keeping the pocket clean. You got a loose pocket here where Justin's rolling out. And anytime you get an athletic quarterback like Justin to be able to roll out like that, I think that's when they're most comfortable, first of all, but also as an offensive lineman, you kind of get to it's almost like a run block in a sense. So you're not as worried about getting pressed into a pocket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, real staple of the playbook. No problems with it. It's not like anybody got in Justin Fields' face. The ball comes out clean. They make it. And again, when you've got this reworked line, which you have to include Harry Miller in this, a first-time starter going to center, they're not all going to be perfect.
No, they're not. And I think it's just setting up plays that, if there is a mistake that happens, it's not going to be the end of the world. And you're going to have a quarterback back there that's athletic enough to make right of the mistake, I guess, and make a play out of nothing.
in this right here, I mean, you're not used to seeing Ohio State not get off the ball, but you don't win every single snap when you're a freshman or a sophomore making your first start.
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, and I think Harry did a good job of recovering. I think he could have easily, gotten a lot worse from the beginning of the game on. Whereas I think, you can obviously make a lot of corrections from his film, but I think there's a lot to build on, and going from guard to center is not an easy task. And watching Corey Lindsley do it and a couple other guys, it does take time. So I think these games are important to go through and experience and to learn from. But I'm excited to see his future moving forward.
All right, so you were always you've always been big. So you were a big guy for a quarterback to throw over. DeJuan Jones is a mountain over there. Like, do you ever have quarterbacks, like, express concern, like, if they're coming your way, like, duck down, Reid, or how will Justin Fields manage this when he's got DeJuan Jones on the left side here?
It's kind of one of those unspoken things. I had Johnny Manziel back there when I was at the Browns blocking for him, and he's not a big guy. And Braxton, wasn't the tallest guy either. So it's something you really don't think about, and you kind of just expect the quarterback to adjust around. I think Justin's obviously a little bit taller than, Braxton was, but, DeJuan, look at his footwork here. He's got this guy beat without even having to throw a punch. He's just athletic enough to get back, and that defensive end just says, no mas, there's no way I'm getting there around this guy. So he just pulls up. That's just a good, sound pocket there, and Justin's got plenty of time. So I loved the protection these guys did this game and was very impressed.
Yeah, I think the number was just like 4 hits on Justin Fields in that game. I think any quarterback would take that. This will be the one, people will be excited about what Trey Sermon did, and we know what will happen at the end here with Justin Fields, which is a unique kind of Heisman play. But this, I think, is about everything that you could hope for. 3rd and 1 situation for the Buckeyes. I know that the Slavs are begging for a run play, power run play, and they handle their business here.
Yeah, the cutback here by Sermon is incredible, but also look at Matthew Jones there getting just enough of a chip on the backside where that could have been blown up if, a guy coming in making his first start doesn't see that, it doesn't get back. You can blow that play out in the backfield. So that's a good chip, a little bit late on the back there, but this cutback and this seal on the backside, which ends up being the front side of the play, is just phenomenal. And obviously making that last defender miss is all on Sermon. And then my favorite part of the play here, Justin showing his blocking ability down the field, not getting a block in the back penalty, just in front of him enough to seal off a beautifully executed play.
I think
that's what you want to see from Sermon for the last couple games here. We've been kind of waiting for Sermon to have this breakout game, I guess. At least I have, and I think he showed us in this game what he can really do when he's comfortable. And he's not even running behind his premier offensive line. That's the craziest part about it.
Reid, do you think that when you look at the way that the tight ends crash down here, this may be, we're always speculating, designed to be that cutback, or what would be the way you view this from this angle here?
It's totally designed cutback. Look where Justin's looking when he hands this off. He's looking at backside over here to that lone defensive end, the read option. So he's looking at that. That's the bookend. So that's going to be basically the player that they have to make a move off of. He's way out there. The line gives just enough of that's more than a push, I think, than you expect when you draw it up, to where that tight end is now down where the guard and center was when the play started. So Sermon's able to keep this a lot tighter than he maybe anticipated, and then bust it out at the last second because that defensive end, that outside linebacker, is hanging out there reading Justin and giving him enough of a hole there to really break it outside. But it's just a phenomenal play from start to finish across the board. I think you couldn't draw this up any better.
All right, and then you've still got that big dude over there. It looks like he's on an island here. Another matchup win for DeJuan Jones. He's really been a little bit of a revelation, even back to last year. You and I were talking about him, just ahead of schedule and the things that you could do with him.
Yeah, he's going to be one that NFL scouts have their eye on for games to come here. And it's obviously he's got the size and he's putting the feet behind it now. So that's going to be an exciting one to watch.
All right, big win for the Ohio State offensive line. It was rebuilt, reworked for a big win at Michigan State. Keeps Ohio State on track to go to the Big Ten title game next week against Northwestern. Still in contention for the college football playoff as well. Always that offensive line is going to be a key part of it. Reid Fragel knows it better than anybody. Reid, always appreciate your insights and hanging out with us, man.
Thanks, Austin. Always a pleasure.
All right, join us next time as we get more Ohio State film study on BuckIQ. For Reid, I'm Austin Ward. We will see you then.